Welcome. This explainer is from Unlock UPSC, and we're diving into a really critical editorial analysis that's essential for anyone preparing for the UPSC, UPPCS, BPSC, and other civil services exams. India is constantly in the news as one of the world's fastest-growing economies, a real bright spot. But what do those big flashy numbers really mean? Today, we're going to peel back the layers of India's growth story. We're moving beyond the headlines to get to the heart of the critical challenges hiding just beneath the surface.
So let's start with a statement that really stirred the pot not too long ago. Former US President Donald Trump, in his typical fashion, called India a dead economy. Now that's a pretty provocative claim, right? It's designed to get a reaction. But for us as serious analysts, the real question is simple. Does a statement like that actually hold up to the facts on the ground today?
Well, the latest data tells a completely different story. A dramatically different one, in fact. The numbers are in, and they show that India's gross domestic product, that's the total value of everything produced in the country, grew by a massive 8.2% in the last quarter. Now, a number like that doesn't just push back against the dead economy label, it paints a picture of a nation that's absolutely booming. But, as any civil services aspirant knows, the headline number is never the full story. It's just where our investigation begins. So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at that headline story and all its positives. Then we're going to dive deep into three critical challenges: job creation, the trustworthiness of our data, and the environmental cost of this growth. After that, we'll explore what a path to more meaningful progress could look like. And we'll wrap up with the key takeaways you absolutely need for your mains exams. Okay, first things first, let's give credit where it's due. An 8.2% growth rate, that is undeniably impressive on the world stage. This is the pro side of the argument. High growth like this brings in foreign investment, it has the potential to pull millions of people out of poverty, and it definitely strengthens India's position in the world. It's a clear sign of powerful economic momentum, and that's something we're celebrating. But the critical question always remains, what kind of growth is this, and is everyone really benefiting from it? And now, let's get to the critical analysis. This is where we need to look past those impressive gross domestic product numbers and start asking the tough questions. We're going to focus on three fundamental ones. Is this growth actually creating enough good jobs for people? Can we really trust the data that's telling us this amazing story? And maybe most importantly, is this growth sustainable for our future? Our first, and you could argue, our biggest challenge is the jobs conundrum. So the economy's expanding at 8.2%. Great. But is it creating enough quality employment for India's huge and young workforce? I mean, we have the largest population in the world. Making the most of our demographic dividend is absolutely crucial. Economic growth is only truly meaningful if it means better jobs and more financial security for citizens. We want what's called job-rich growth, not jobless growth. To really get the jobs problem, you have to look at where people are working. This data from the Periodic Labor Force Survey reveals a really staggering fact. 46% of India's entire workforce is still employed in agriculture. Just let that sink in. Nearly half of our working population depends on a single sector that is often plagued by low productivity and is incredibly vulnerable to things like a bad monsoon. And here is the heart of the issue. Just look at the difference on this chart. The overall economy is racing ahead at 8.2%. But the agricultural sector, which, remember, employs almost half our people, is growing at just 3.5%. That's less than half the speed. This huge gap is what's preventing what economists call structural transformation, that crucial shift of workers from low-paying farm jobs to better-paying jobs in factories and services. That's the classic path to becoming a rich country. And because our pace is so slow here, millions are getting left behind. Okay, this brings us to our second big challenge, the data dilemma. Think about it. To make good policies, to attract global investors, or even just for us citizens to know what's really going on, we need to be able to trust our economic numbers. But there are growing questions, both from international organizations and experts right here at home, about the quality of the very data that's giving us these fantastic growth figures. Now, have a look at this carefully worded statement from an International Monetary Fund report. In the very diplomatic world of international finance, when they say some shortcomings, that's a pretty big red flag. In fact, the IMF actually gave India's national accounts a C grade. This doesn't mean the data is totally wrong, but it's a clear signal that there are serious issues that could shake confidence in our numbers.
So, what's one of the main problems? It's the base year we use for calculating our gross domestic product. As you can see here, India is still using 2011-12 as its benchmark. That's over a decade old. The global standard is to update this every 5 years. It's like trying to navigate a city today using a map from 2012. Our current GDP data just doesn't fully capture huge changes, like the boom in the digital economy, the gig workforce, or the whole startup scene. But the problem goes even deeper than that. About 90% of India's economy is what we call informal. This is your street vendors, your small shopkeepers, daily wage laborers. It's a massive, vital part of our economy. But it's also incredibly difficult to measure accurately. This means our official stats on GDP, on jobs, and on poverty might not be telling the whole story, and the reality for most of our workforce might be a lot less rosy. Our third and final challenge gets to a question that's, frankly, existential: the environmental sustainability of our growth. What good are high GDP numbers if they come at the cost of the air we breathe and the water we drink? You see, traditional measures like GDP, they don't subtract the cost of pollution. They don't account for using up our natural resources. So they give us a really incomplete picture of our actual well-being. This leads us to a very direct and urgent question. We hear all the time about our ambitious goals for green energy and sustainability. But when you look at the reality on the ground, how green is the economic model that's actually producing this 8.2% number? Is our growth truly making life better, or is it coming at an ecological price that we just can't afford to pay? The reality is, well, it's pretty sobering. According to the Swiss firm IQAir, an incredible 45 of the world's 50 most polluted cities are right here in India. Let that sink in, 45 out of 50. This isn't just a ranking on a list. This is a daily public health emergency for millions of people. And it has huge economic costs, from healthcare to lost workdays. It points to a fundamental flaw in our growth model. This reveals a really weird paradox in how we measure growth. When air pollution gets so bad that people have to rush out and buy air purifiers, or when hospital visits go up, all of that spending actually gets counted as a positive thing. It adds to our gross domestic product. But does that really represent progress? It forces us to ask a really tough question about what growth should even mean. And let's connect this to the devastating human cost. The Air Quality Life Index estimates that people living in the Delhi NCR region lose an average of 8.2 years of their life expectancy because of air pollution. 8.2 years. That is a staggering price to pay. It turns an abstract environmental problem into a matter of life and death, and it really shows the trade-off we're making between the quantity of growth and the quality of our lives. And the crisis doesn't stop with the air we breathe. The Central Groundwater Board reports that Delhi's groundwater is severely contaminated with dangerous stuff like uranium, lead, and nitrate. This is a ticking time bomb, posing serious long-term health risks to millions who depend on that water every single day. Okay, so we've identified these three huge challenges in jobs, data, and the environment. So what's the path forward? Let's shift from looking at the problems to talking about solutions. How can India pursue a type of growth that isn't just fast, but is also meaningful, inclusive, and genuinely sustainable for the long haul? The path forward really involves a clear three-pronged strategy. First, we've got to get the jobs right. That means focusing our policies on creating good, productive, formal sector jobs. Second, we have to get the data right. It's time to completely modernize our national statistics system so it's credible and actually reflects our 21st century economy. And third, we have to get the environment right by making sustainability a core part of all economic policy, not just an afterthought. All right, now for everyone getting ready for the mains exam, let's pull together all the key takeaways from our discussion. These are the crucial data points and ideas that will help you build a really strong, nuanced, evidence-based argument in your answers.
Let's do a quick revision of the key data you need. The headline, Gross Domestic Product Growth, 8.2%. The share of our workforce in agriculture, a massive 46%, but that sector's growth is just 3.5%. The IMF's grade for our national accounts is a C. Our outdated GDP base year is still 2011-12. And on the environment, remember, 45 of the world's 50 most polluted cities are in India. And finally, about 90% of our economy is informal.
And to wrap things up, here's a practice question for your mains preparation. While India's headline GDP growth is impressive, it masks significant underlying challenges in job creation, data credibility, and environmental sustainability. Critically analyze this statement.
I really encourage you to use the structure we talked about today, the pro of high growth, the cons of our 3 big challenges, and the potential solutions to build a really comprehensive and balanced answer. See you again tomorrow with an important editorial. For this, subscribe to the YouTube channel Unlock UPSC. Thank you.